Even within communism, in the Eastern, Central and Eastern Europe, Romania was much more closed on other societies. It was like a prison.
1989 was a difficult year for most. The Cold War was at its highest, and it was a year that had been dubbed the fall of communism. During that year, many Eastern European countries decided to peacefully ask for independence from their communist regimes, and for most of them, communism had been abolished. However, one country stood out. Romania had been under communist rule for decades, and it refused to go quietly. Eventually, Romania's Communist Party felt differently from its neighbors, in the bloodiest overthrow of communism of the year. In late December of 1989, the Romanian people revolted against Nicolae and Elena Ceausescu and their communist regime due to horrible living conditions and extreme oppression, leading to their eventual execution on Christmas Day. This was a huge turning point for the country because it led to a mass migration of the Romanian people and the eventual collapse of the Soviet Union. Having been long ignored and tired of waiting for help, the Romanian people decided to stand up and make a move that would finally put them on the map. Having been occupied by Soviet Russia in the late 1940s, Romania had adopted a communist government. Due to this, Nicolae Ceausescu was elected General Secretary on March 22, 1965. In his early years, Ceausescu was a popular leader, both in Romania and abroad, due in no small part to his statements standing up to the Soviets. 3 years into his regime, the Soviet Union and other countries from the Warsaw Pact invaded Czechoslovakia. Ceausescu refused to let his country participate and instead condemned the actions. He also announced that if the Soviet Union set foot on Romanian soil, there would be consequences and Romania would open fire. His decision made him very popular amongst his people, who were tired of feeling like slaves to the Soviet Union, also making him popular around the world as everyone wanted to meet the man that had the courage to stand up to the Soviets. Due to his newfound popularity, Ceausescu and his wife Elena were invited on diplomatic visits to other countries. In 1971, he visited North Vietnam, North Korea, China, and Mongolia. He was particularly impressed with the tactics that the North Korean and Chinese leaders employed. He was inspired by these regimes to create his own cult of personality, and he was seen as a godly creature, higher in status than anyone else. Also included in this was his wife Elena. Even though she was a high school dropout, she was seen as an incredibly intelligent woman and put in charge of a number of important decisions pertaining to health and education in Romania. In 1974, Nicolae Ceausescu was sworn in as president of the country, and he was eager to establish Romania. Therefore, he started a series of ambitious plans, one of them being the building of oil refineries financed partially through foreign loans. However, when the oil refineries ran out of oil to process due to various reasons, Romania was left with more than 10 billion US dollars in debt. By the 1980s, Romania and its people were massively suffering. Due to foreign debt servicing, Ceausescu exported crops, electricity, and industrial goods, which meant that the Romanians were often left with only the most basic food and limited electricity. People had to queue for hours if they wanted to get any food, and options were very limited, often only including certain canned goods and wilted produce. Electricity was rationed as well, often only working during certain times of the day and occasionally going out altogether. Most importantly, there was a complete lack of freedom.
Communism in Romania, I specify, in Romania, was like in a prison. It was a fight for, first of all, freedom of speech, freedom of choice, um, freedom of travel, any kind of freedom. It was like in a prison.
If a Romanian person said or did anything wrong, they were paid a visit by the secret police. Ceausescu was anti-religion, so the Romanians were not allowed to go to church or celebrate religious holidays like Christmas. The Romanian people were forced to participate in mass performances honoring Ceausescu and his accomplishments, which were oftentimes falsified. While the Romanian people suffered in their home country, Ceausescu lived a lavish life with multiple houses around the country and expensive imported items. In addition to this, the West was highly villainized, and Romania lived a closed-off life from other countries, with the Romanian people not being allowed to have foreign objects, listen to foreign TV, watch foreign radio, and wear foreign clothing. There were still some ways for information to travel, specifically in border towns like Timișoara. People here could catch illegal programs on their radios, and they heard about the revolutions that were catching on in the rest of Eastern Europe. At this time, anti-communist sentiments were sweeping Europe. Countries like Hungary, Bulgaria, and Poland were all changing their government and their political system. Romania did not want to be the only one left. The pieces were in place for a revolution. On December 16, 1989, people were gathered outside the house of a priest, Laszlo Tokes. He was facing deportation or possibly worse due to his sermons that expressed anti-communist sentiments. A crowd gathered outside his house to protect him from the police, and riots erupted in the streets outside of the priest's house and around the city. The revolution had begun. A few days after the revolt, Nicolae Ceausescu gathered a huge group of citizens in the capital city of Bucharest, intending to give a speech about how the recent uprisings were not affecting Romania. However, during his speech, the people began to boo instead of cheer. Such a thing was unheard of when Ceausescu was giving a speech. The people were beginning to revolt. They began to march, and as the hours went on, the March for Freedom was gaining traction. Ceausescu ordered the military and the secret police to shoot at the protesters, and over the next 4 days, blood was shed in the streets all around Romania. It is estimated that more than 1,100 people died in the revolution. At one point, the military turned against Ceausescu and began to protest along the citizens, effectively ending the battle. The Ceausescus attempted to flee by helicopter, but they were soon caught and executed by firing squad on Christmas Day, 1989. The Romanians had done it. They managed to overthrow communism. A new government was quickly established with Ion Iliescu as the president, and the many people that were involved with the Communist Party were given trial and imprisoned. For the first time in over 30 years, the Romanian people were allowed to celebrate Christmas publicly. The revolution had happened at a crucial time, massively impacting both Romania and the rest of the world. Romania was the last country which abolished communism in the revolutions of 1989 that had occurred throughout the year. With the end of communism in Romania, it became almost obsolete everywhere else. The Soviet Union was no longer being supported and instead was being pressured to change its ways, which ultimately led to its collapse just 2 years later, in 1991. This marked the end of the Cold War, ushering in a new era of peace for the world. Romania was impacted in a number of ways, one of them being a mass migration of its people. After the end of communism, people realized there were different lives to be found in other countries, which caused many of them to move out of the country, including talented doctors, scientists, and workers. Romania's population was at an all-time high in 1989, with around 23 million people residing within its borders. However, that number has steadily decreased since then, with a current population of around 19 million people, and that number is estimated to keep decreasing. With many people leaving the country, Romania was left without people to fill these positions. This revealed growing poverty and a failing economy. However, the Romanian economy has since bounced back, largely due to the changed political system. Another major change was the political system. Although many people were rebranded as old Communist Party members, there was no going back. Political reforms were enacted and change came. Currently, Romania operates under a multi-party democratic system, including a president and a parliament. Romania has managed to completely recover from communism and is currently a member of the UN and NATO. Romania was a forgotten country, tucked away into irrelevance amongst all the other major events occurring in the time period. However, the Romanians fought hard under the face of oppression, and they persevered when things got tough. The Romanian story is one of determination and spirit, and it is one that all people should know.